I turned 95 this year. At this age, people expect stories about survival and wisdom, but no one really asks what it cost, because if they did, I would have to tell them the truth, that most people die. When their heart stops, they die slowly, and more often than not, they die from who they love. Back then, love felt like something you held onto, protected, and fought for. We were taught that love requires sacrifice, that if it hurts, it must mean it's real. So we stayed, we endured. But I've lived long enough to see how that story ends. It doesn't end with love. It ends with loss of self, of time, of spirit. The first thing I learned is to stop loving people who are comfortable watching you suffer. They are not always cruel. Sometimes they laugh with you and hold your hand. That's what keeps you there. But if someone can watch you break again and again and still sleep peacefully at night, that is not love. That is indifference, wearing the mask of intimacy. The second thing I learned is to stop trying to change people. You cannot build a life on potential. You cannot love someone into becoming a better person if they have no intention of changing, waking up one day and realizing you spent your best years waiting for someone else to grow, and they never did, is a quiet tragedy. The third thing I learned is to stop emotional dependency. If your peace depends on someone else's mood, you are not in love. You are trapped, trying to read his face to see if today will be peaceful is not love. That's survival. Real love gives you space to breathe and exist as you are, without fear. The fourth thing I learned is to stop treating endurance as a virtue. We praise people for holding it together, but endurance is not always strength. Sometimes it's just fear. Fear of being alone or starting over. There is nothing brave about disappearing in a situation that slowly erases who you are. The fifth thing I learned is to stop suffering in silence. Silence doesn't heal. It just buries the pain, where it turns into resentment and exhaustion. Silence doesn't protect you. It only protects the person who is hurting you. The sixth thing I learned is to stop forgiving the same thing over and over again. Forgiveness is powerful, but repetition is not forgiveness. It's permission. Every time you say, "It's okay," when it's not, you teach people that your pain has no consequence and move yourself further down on your own list of priorities. The last thing I learned, stop putting yourself last. Many of us were raised to believe selflessness is the highest form of love. But if you give until there is nothing left, you realize no one is coming to give back to you. The quiet heartbreak is not betrayal. It's the realization that you abandoned yourself for years. You are not selfish for choosing yourself or setting boundaries. You are simply late to your own life, but late is still better than never. Some people don't break your heart all at once. They stay and slowly teach you how to live without a heart at all. If something inside you feels heavy, it's the beginning of choosing yourself for the first time. The 11th thing I learned is that time is the only currency you can never earn back. We spend years as if our days are infinite, giving hours to arguments that don't matter and decades to people who don't see us. At 95, I look at my hands and realize they have held so much that wasn't mine to carry. Stop treating your life like a waiting room. You are not waiting for the right time or for them to understand. You are simply burning your only light while waiting to notice her in the dark, while waiting for someone as your dark. The 12th thing I learned is to stop seeking closure from the people who hurt you. We stay in toxic cycles because we want an apology, a realization, a moment where they finally get it. But most people who break you are incapable of fixing you. If they were capable of understanding your pain, they wouldn't have caused it in the first place. Real closure doesn't come from their confession. It comes from your own permission to move on without it. You don't need their sorry to be whole again. The 13th thing I learned is to stop fearing the labels people give you when you finally stand up, when you stop being a martyr. They will call you difficult, selfish, or cold. Let them. These words are often just the sounds of people losing the power to control you. I spent 70 years trying to be good and agreeable, only to realize that those who praised my kindness were often the ones most fitted by my lack of boundaries. The best benefit lack of boundaries. Being difficult is often just another word for being free. The 14th thing I learned is that your self-worth is not a communal property. It does not belong to your husband, your children, or your neighbors. I have seen women who are queens in their own hearts, but beggars for affection in their own homes. Stop asking people who don't value themselves to tell you what you are worth. Their scale is broken. Build a sanctuary inside yourself where your value is a fact, not a negotiation. If you don't build this, the world will always find a way to make you feel small. The last thing, the most important thing, is that the journey of life is not about finding someone to walk with, but about becoming someone you are proud to walk as. As I reach the end of my road, the faces of the people I tried to please have faded. The only person left is me, and my only regret is that I didn't introduce myself to me sooner. I didn't have to be a shadow. I didn't have to be a bridge for others to cross. I was meant to be the destination. It took me 95 years to arrive, but I am finally home.